this computer. Gonna hit record on my Audacity.
Hit record.
And then
Recording.
Turn my fan off.
Do you want me to turn my fan off? Does it matter? Can you hear it?
I don't hear your fan. Mine is like literally 5 inches from my face, though. It would be. I know for a fact that I can hear it when I could hear it. So. All right. You ready?
I suppose.
All right. How is everybody doing? Welcome once again to another episode of Free Market's Green Earth. I am Nicky P, here as always with my good friend and co-host Tits McGee, otherwise known as Ben the Liberty Hippie. How are you doing there, Ben the Liberty Hippie?
I'm good. I put a shirt on to do this, so
I told him that perhaps our fan base didn't want him to have a shirt on. He said probably was not the best choice.
Probably not. I mean, maybe some freaky deaky out there, but probably not.
Well, it'll be what it'll be. So we have an interesting one today. When I was scoping for topics, I found, believe it or not, a really good article on NBC News's website. And I know, as shocking as it is to most of our listeners, it was a genuinely good article. And it kind of coincided with a lot of the thoughts that I've been having going on. You know, the biggest thing post-coove that I've had to deal with and think about is the garden in the backyard and how to maximize it and how to do the most I can to be to have to think about the general food production in our country as little as possible. Like, we've been looking at local farms and trying to get in touch there, see how the different CSA programs are working, things like that, you know, in an effort to make ourselves more self-sufficient, or at the very least not at the whims of the big corporate interests.
Yeah.
Have you yourself kind of gone down that road a little bit more, Ben?
I mean, to a degree, we've been
you were
trying
already
to get down that road
types.
anyway. Like we're already trying to get down that road, and so it was kind of like
reassuring that you were doing the right thing.
There's still, and there's still some stuff, like we want to do more meat animals, like bigger, red meat kind of stuff. So that's kind of on the docket, but at the same time, it's bigger stuff and harder to process and deal with. But I went to the store the other day to get. I was looking at beef, and it's doubled in price, and I'm just like, I can't do that. That's absurd. Get out of here. So, if you have it on hand, why not?
Yeah. So, this is something that obviously we've both been kind of going through in our lives and dealing with the changes in the food system. For us, like, we've never had a garden before, and we turned our entire backyard into a garden. We're starting to plant some trees in some larger containers, and hopefully, like, they'll, the blueberry bush will work in a large, a large container. Yeah. But there were a couple articles that I don't think people think about when it comes to this, and it's about resources. It's about resource management and how resources get used and spent. And the first article I sent you today was about the manner in which the coove has affected, what do you call it, endangered species, and that
monkeys.
Basically, the governments don't have as much money to spend on keeping poachers from killing the monkeys. So, failing at a job that they were tasked at because they only have resources enough to do certain things. And, the monkeys are really important until, well, they're not. So.
Yeah, God, I don't know. It's just that article, it's so absurd, but I think it made me unhappy, upset, annoyed, whatever the word is. But I think it's more to do with, like, overreaction to the coove than anything else. Really, it was just like, man, yeah, talking about how they're devoting all the firefighters to, keeping people safe with the coove, and so they're not able to put out fires in the rainforest. I don't know. I find it hard to buy, but
And much like always, I'm always on the other side going, yes. Notice all of government's failures, everyone. Notice that it cannot help you. It can do you no good.
yeah.
Even when it does you good, it just means it's at the expense of something else you want it to do, and you'd be better off deciding which of those things you wanted to do yourself.
Yeah, and that's what it's boiled down to out there in the rainforest, right? It's the native tribes, it's the local tribes that are putting out the fires, that are trying to um, keep the poachers and the loggers out. It falls back on them anyway. So
So it was a short article, but very quickly after it, it gave me another article, which was kind of like the core of what I wanted to talk about today. And the article is, as the coove pandemic strains supplies, Native Americans fight food insecurity. Now, everyone's fighting food insecurity, I guess, and
yeah,
what's going on right now. But I do realize that native populations do have a certain different set of circumstances than everyone else has, mostly because of their culture combined with how they've been treated historically by the country itself. The weird legal status of their lands and things of that nature. And we've kind of, in many ways, infantilized the Native American populations in our country and kind of made them dependent on government and taught them that they have to rely on it for. God, we seem to do that to a lot of populations. Is that the ultimate goal? Is
yeah.
just making sure everyone believes that they need government to take care of them?
It sure seems like it. I mean, it's just when you look at it all, and that's all we're doing right now. With this whole COVID thing, and you got the coove, and now you got the pig flu coming along, and we're primed. People are primed to suck the boot and just do whatever I'm told because of something that may or may not hurt me, and there's a very good chance that it won't bother me at all. And here we are.
Um, well,
I'm
so
angry. I'm angry about all this nonsense. It's been
as
boiling me up.
rightfully should be. Trust me, I'm not exactly excited about it. Uh, so I'm reading this article, and it's going on to talk about have you ever been on an Indian reservation? We have a lot of them in New York, is why I ask.
Yeah, I think when I was in college, I think we would sometimes there might have been a few trips to the res to pick some stuff up or to pass through, because it was a weird situation where they actually owned land on either side of the St. Lawrence River, I believe, and so some of it was in Canada and some of it was in New York, and so it's an interesting situation up there. But there's a lot of reservations around there, and that's one of the things with this article that gives me a little bit of pause just to talk about is because I don't know exactly what life is like on the reservation, right? We have all these pictures that are painted. The stereotype is that it's pretty destitute, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. So, I'm operating under that lens.
Um, eh, I actually grew up minutes from an Indian reservation. Like my hometown has an Indian reservation for the Seneca Nation. It's the Oil Springs Corners Reservation. Literally right there. There's like 3
Mhm.
gas stations. Everybody goes and buys their gas and cigarettes there because
Yep.
they don't have New York State taxes.
Yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
um, but one of the things you see up there is that they it looks like you would expect like Section 8 housing to look like in like
Yeah.
a broken down hood kind of neighborhood. And it's frustrating to see people living this way. But it's also frustrating that they've essentially been told by society that they have to live this way. They have to rely on the government, and when you rely on the government, that's what government provides you. Not much.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? It's really hard because like it's not just what you've been taught. It's what you've been shown. It's what you've been allowed. It's what you've been forced into, right? You look at a reservation. What is a reservation? These people have been forced to live there, and when you're forced to live someplace, like you can't necessarily do the things that culturally you might have been doing before. Let's face it, when they put the reservations together out west, it's not like they put them on prime land,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They put it on the stuff that
So
developers didn't want already.
right, so you're already set back, and so maybe they want to do some of this stuff, but they can't because the land won't allow it, and they have no other option except for maybe some missionary type stuff or government stuff, and sometimes it's no better one way or the other.
Well, and what's really interesting is that we're talking about like cultures that have a long tradition of
Yeah.
planting foods. Like you look at even the American story, it's about the Native Americans providing us with the bounty of their harvest and the way that their traditions grew out of the soil in America. And as we've moved into societies and we've kind of collectivized into larger and larger megalopolises, and we've centralized our food system so much, the culture of that has gone away for sure. Even if what we did to their cultures notwithstanding. But the one thing that I'm excited about, and this article kind of points it out, is that you have, at a certain point, I think everyone reaches where they're no longer going to wait for government.
Right.
And I'm glad to see a lot of people are kind of hitting that point, both in the non-native populations and in the standard modern culture. And it's because if you wait for government, help may never arrive. You may not be a priority. They may spend that wealth on something else, like, say, bailing out mega corporations, as they have done with every round of this stimulus. You look at some of the biggest recipients of federal money throughout this whole thing, and it's fucking disgusting.
It is sickening. It's really,
which includes
tragic.
Walmart, folks, because they really need it.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
inherently have.
Think about that. The Fed now owns Walmart.
Oh my god!
Here we go, folks. It's coming. It's coming.
Exactly what Tom Woods always warned people about: the Hall of Walmart CEOs replacing the Hall of Presidents. Your kids wake up, they go to school, and then they're forced to look at the history of all the Walmart CEOs.
Yeah. I do. I like this article. I think it's a kind of a unique take on things.
Well,
I hope that you do people this, like, I think this thing is forcing people to pick a side, right? You're either going to go on the side of being more reliant on yourself and less trust in the government, or you are going to go to the side where we need to give everything to the government.
well, so getting into this, one of the things that they're definitely too keen to point out, and this is probably why the article is really written. It had less to do with the coup and other stuff, but in 2010, the U.S. Department of Agriculture reached a $680 million settlement on a class action lawsuit that said let's see here, the agency engaged in discriminatory lending against Native American farmers for nearly 2 decades. Those farmers said they received significantly fewer loans and more onerous terms than were provided to white farmers. In response, the USDA said it's committed to resolving all cases involving allegations of past discrimination by individuals. Who knows why that discrimination occurred?
Yeah.
But the point remains: if you rely on government, that's what you get.
It's striking Uh, 2010. That was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. Um, like this is not something that's old. This is something that's going on. There's people that are alive and well that went through this. That the government slighted them some way or another, to the point where a court would say, yeah, okay. Um, and for the, I don't know, when a court rules against the federal government, there's got to be something there. They don't do that too often. So um, it's a double-edged sword. I think, honestly, like, yes, Native American farmers they receive significantly fewer loans and more onerous terms. Um, I'm not going to say that that's necessarily a bad thing either. Um, if they're going to prevent you from taking a loan out, there's probably a chance that some of those loans are you wouldn't want to take them in the first place. Just because there's money to be had doesn't mean you want it. It doesn't mean you want those strings attached. You see that with the IMF, the World Bank, and the 2008 housing crisis. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. So
We really should do an episode on like on the book. Is it the economic hitman, or
yeah,
Confessions of an Economic Hitman? Just because,
yeah,
God, that
should.
factors so deep into like with
Yeah,
the global environmental situation. Just as the giant money cartels and how they basically their entire goal is to centralize food service in ways that makes countries dependent on them for food.
I feel like there's a
Look what
quote
happened to
out there.
Venezuela. Venezuela put all of their chickens in the oil basket, and what happened when there was a hiccup?
Yeah, no good. I feel like there's a quote out there, that talks about that. Having people on the hook for food. Like, there's a lot of things you can take from people, but when you take their food from them, like they won't fight. Right?
Well,
That's
like
like,
look at Afghanistan.
yeah,
Get them all growing poppies because they're profitable. They stopped growing their own fucking food.
yeah,
Like it's literally. I mean, it's at this point it's a trope of what we
yeah.
fucking do to other nations. And
Are you saying they do this on purpose?
yes, 100%. Yeah, that's literally what they're there to do. I did find it amusing that one of the people mentioned in this article was from upstate New York.
Yeah, up on the Aquasas. That's the reservation I was
It's amusing to
talking
me, and
about.
that like, I feel like we kind of just grew up in like almost an idyllic environmentally place. Like there's something just amazing environmentally about our state.
It is not necessarily downstate. When you get upstate and out Western New York, it is. It's so different. It's unique. I mean, you think
Well,
about like
all the
the
places that we
Adirondack
go to
State
be.
Park. I mean, like it's the biggest one. This side of the Mississippi. It was like one of the first ones, if not the first. It's crazy. And people, you hear New York and you think city, but you go up, you know, to the tiny hamlets up north and out west, and
Well, when I went to
it's a
college and I'd say I'm
different
from New
place.
York, people just assume that you're from the city. And you're like, no, I've never seen it. I grew up 8 hours away.
Yeah. When I moved down here, that's always the disclaimer, right? From New York, like 6 hours north of the city, 4 hours north of the city, somewhere in there. Gotta let people know I'm not one of those. Not one of those.
What was one of the things we were talking? If you listen to our episode of Peace Freqs with Anthony Samaroff's brother, we're talking to him kind of about like the geography of our America versus he's like, well, I
Yeah.
feel bad that I'm not like more well read on American geography, and I'm like, I really wouldn't be like upset about that. Like, there's a lot more geography to America. You guys have a
Yeah.
far
For
smaller
sure.
place to be to like. It'd be much easier for me to know. And I'm like trying to give him like a sense of space, and it's like I can drive all night across one state here,
Yeah.
but that's because people forget that each state is essentially supposed to be its own country. Like we've morphed the idea what things are into something that they never intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which, plus, I think people also forget like the taxing situation, like how we do taxes here. Like, I think people forget like how overtaxed we are because we have two separate levels of government above us, as opposed to, you know.
Yeah. It's it is. It's you're paying the state and you're paying the Fed, and what do I don't think people realize it sometimes how much actually goes
If you
into it.
have county property taxes, you have
Yeah.
local taxes. Like, there's more layers of government here than anywhere else in the world, which is a little. I think people just aren't used to thinking about it. It's like if you paid a Europe tax on top of
Yeah.
your
Does
German
does
taxes.
the EU charge tax,
As far as
or
I
is that
think,
just
I
absorbed by the
I think I think it goes through like the trade and all that stuff. Like, you absorb it
Okay.
through what you purchase, like what you
Right.
buy.
Yeah.
I
Gotcha.
could be wrong. I'm not an expert on their economy. Um, but it was something interesting that I noticed. I did want to put a shout out that they said there is an organization on here. Oh
There's a
goodness.
couple of them. There's a handful of them.
One of the things they were seeing was like the being a problem is just the generational divide. The
Yeah.
younger people not understanding how important farming can be because they haven't lived in a world where it's been important. But while that all is going on, you also have, good Lord, I'm looking very specifically. So there's something called the Traditional Native American Farmers Association. And essentially it's like a seed bank
Yep.
specifically for Native American farmers. It was one of the founders was let's see here, Clayton
Roscoe.
Brascope, however you want to pronounce that. Out of the foothills of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains of New Mexico. And he's been doing this for 4 decades. But they said over 200% increase in the seeds going out. Normally they're sending out like little packets of seeds, and they've been sending out like boxes of seeds this year.
Yeah, it's impressive, and it's nice to see. Like,
I think that means people are
people
learning,
are
they're
more
seeing what it
interested.
is.
Well, and that's it. Like,
The writings on the wall.
some of the seeds and the crops that are out there, like, that we don't know exist. Like, or that exist only in a small pocket. One tribe has kept it alive for however long. There's a squash that I grow down here. Everything else just dies. The squash beetles get it, and it sucks. And like, there's one that I can grow down here that was cultivated by Cherokee tribes in northern Georgia, and so it survives in this environment. That's where it does well. All those things are there, and they exist, and they were here long before we were. And you know, to have all that knowledge, all that wisdom, all that information lost would be tragic. And seeing these people, the seed banks, do this sort of thing is, I love it. I will say that they showed a picture of the box going out, and man, if you've ever saved seeds, that is I don't know. It makes my head hurt. It makes me just a bag of seeds, and they're all just tossed in there. And if you want to plant, I mean, are people going to sort that? If you want to save seeds, you're going to have like, I see at least 2 types of corn seed in this bag. There's a couple different squash seeds I can make out. Like, that's bad news, man. That's bad news. I know saving seeds is like the next step beyond like, growing your stuff, but I don't know.
Well, get into it. Why is it bad news? I don't know.
I mean, like,
Let's educate our listeners, bro. If you got the ability to.
because like you corn, like because when you want to, if these people are going to try to save their seeds so they can grow them next year, they need to be pure. You can't grow the same type of vegetable next to it. Like, you can't grow 3 types of corn next to each other without cross pollination happening. Squash is the same way there, and there's other things, like I think there's beans in there, and beans are generally speaking pretty okay. They're pretty much self-pollinated. So the before the flower even really opens up, the pollen descends, and so there's not much cross pollination that can happen there. But some of these other things, it's just like, man, don't do that. Don't do that. Not to mention, you imagine planting that. say I want to put my corn over here, I want to put some squash in between, and you got to go through and like sort that all out. It's just in different times that things ripen. And not all corn takes 70 days. Some might take longer. So it just kind of. But they're seeds. They're seeds that are getting out, and that's the first step.
Well, that is the first step. More than anything, I'm excited that people are learning. We've been hearing a lot about the increased level of saving, just in general amongst Americans.
Yeah.
In the uncertain times. So even while the stock market's freaking out, apparently some people are saying maybe I should just not be spending everything I get, which unfortunately makes the government want to spend more to try and ramp up people's spending because, God, they need to get that economic activity. But, when you're misinterpreting economic activity as spending, then I guess what are you going to do?
Not much. I guess I don't know. Man.
To be clear, as a capitalist, folks, economic activity is not good just to spend. Saving is part of that process. In fact, perhaps the more important part of that process, because saving is how you choose better things to build and better things to make and better ways to use that money. Just blowing it willy-nilly on whatever you can, it's just a stupid thing. Not to mention, the system is kind of set up to propel money towards the people that it's set to propel it towards. Doesn't matter how much they stimulate into the economy, it's just kind of going to float where the laws and the system pushes it, which, by the way, is typically giant mega corporations now.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad state, and hopefully, things are kind of.
So basically, if you were to give every American like a $5,000 right now, within a month, Amazon's going to have all of that.
Most of it, yeah.
And then no American is going to be ahead.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing. We're stimulating the economy, and it's I don't know, like in the whole like stimulus thing, and like it's just absurd. We're gonna give people $1,200, and that will cover your expenses for however long. Like, I don't know, man. That doesn't cover a whole lot. Like, you got a homeowner's insurance come due. It's not gonna cover it. You gotta.
I mean,
buy
I'm the
food for
sucker over
5
here.
kids. Like,
My boss asked if I wanted laid off. I said no.
yeah, you're making more collecting that unemployment.
All of my friends make way more money than I do right now. And I've been busting my ass outside the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't looked at all into the next stimulus package they're talking about, but they keep saying that there's some work incentive involved in that. So who knows what nonsense that means? But you have to go work at the post office or some sort of state sanctioned job.
Hopefully,
paving roads.
So at any rate, I guess the moral of the story, folks, is from my perspective, do not rely on government to take care of you because you're going to be waiting a long time. Maybe it'll be quick. Maybe it will take forever. Maybe it'll just never come. The best choice that you can make is take the steps to help yourself. Because if you're relying on yourself, please look into the private organizations that are out there that can help you, like this, seed organization we talked about today. If you ever want help, please don't be afraid to contact us. I'm sure we can point you in some directions. Believe it or not, while they try and paint a horrible picture of capitalists, most capitalists aren't evil corporate overlords. Typically, those people are really into governments.
Yeah. Helping them out, helping them keep that billionaire status.
I mean, Ben's got that
corp status.
Ben's got that Jesus thing that like requires him to help people and stuff. Isn't that like the whole point of what you guys are there for?
Yeah, I mean, it's you do, right? And you do, and I don't know. Sometimes it's monetarily, and sometimes it's not. And if it doesn't always have to be money, it could be many other ways that we can help each other.
And I know I've heard you personally offering to send people seeds for months now. So
yeah, I have. I got some coming now. I got some corn that's just about dry and ready to be seeded, shelled, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Can't remember the word. But yeah. Yeah, got
We
some stuff.
started growing some asparagus this year by our garage.
Nice. Asparagus is one of those that I miss down here. It's too hot. I have a neighbor who's trying to grow it, but it's too much. Too
Well,
much.
theoretically, it's supposed to, like, once you start growing it, it starts multiplying. And
Yeah, well, I grew some when I was a kid. We my dad and I would go pick go dig up the wild asparagus on the side of the road, and
yeah,
we built a pretty sizable bed, and it's doing well for him now. So
I enjoy eating asparagus, so I'd be excited to have some asparagus growing in our backyard.
it's good, man. It's good, and it's expensive too if you try to buy that crap. Forget
Yeah,
it. So
yeah. Like I said, I mean, for us, like, permaculture is the end goal, but right now we're just gonna kind of grow what we can.
yeah, I think I've said it before on my pod. You don't wake up in permaculture heaven. You don't wake up in the middle of a homestead and all your food on the table is yours. Like it's little steps, it's little things that get you there, and you wean yourself off of things slowly and surely, and you'll get there. And then you turn around and look back and you say, holy crap, I got enough chicken in my freezer. I don't have to buy chicken for a year. Whatever it is, it's there, and you're like, I did it.
For those who aren't aware, Ben does do a homesteads and homeschooling podcast that is top notch. He has great guests. I would actually bring it up this week because his guest last week was the bee guy, and holy crap, was that episode just amazing to listen to. Like, I learned so much in that episode.
Dude, that guy is Dave Hunter, Crown Bees. Go check him out. It's amazing. He's
There
got
was
so much information in his head floating around, and I think he's done some like talks, like real like educational type talks and stuff. And it's just fascinating. He really is like, he's one of those individuals that if you want to ask him questions about it, he will give you his time and he will educate you, because that is what's like important to him. You know.
oh no, dude, that guy, and it was probably the most dense learning episode of yours I've ever heard, and it was also simultaneously like super entertaining to listen to because that dude was just going off about fucking bees, like just going off.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even realize there was just so many types of bees, and he's just just going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently America is just bees wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember there was that lady who never came back to do her podcast about. I was looking at like environmentalism from that left angle, very just SJW, and she did an episode on like honeybees being bad, and but it was more they were bad because like it was European holdover, and it was like they were racist kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
you're talking about our girl, aren't you?
yeah, I forgot her name now. It's been so long, but yeah, and it's true. Like honeybees are, I don't know, they have their place, but it's not the end all be all. But yeah.
Well, everyone go check out Ben's podcast, Homesteads and Homeschools. And other than that, thanks for listening to us this week.
Yeah.
Go out and make the world beautiful or something.
Yeah. Grow something.
You know what you shouldn't do? Don't think about murdering people that throw trash out of their windows while driving.
No. That's bad.
I've been doing it multiple times this week.
I don't know, man. It's that public land. You can't tell anything. Can't do
Like,
anything.
I'm against the death penalty. I am very against. What do you want to say? It's capital punishment of any kind. Like, I can't think of anything that warrants, death. Like, I will listen to someone, I will hear them out on why they murdered somebody.
Yeah, there's a few places I may go where
But I'm
it would
completely
be,
okay with just being able to shoot someone in the face for throwing trash out of their driver's side window in the middle of like driving. Like,
yeah,
that's completely okay in my book.
it's a scummy thing to do.
I don't know why that seems worse than murder to me personally, but it does. We've covered this before on the show. If
We
you're
have,
aware, folks.
yeah.
It
It's one
is.
of those things,
It's a thing I have to fight daily.
I think when you like weigh the difficulty of getting the trash to a trash can versus like just tossing it out your window, I think that's what just really like riles me up about it, you know? Like how lazy can you
Just
be? How
set it
like
on your passenger side seat until you get
right?
home. There's a
Yeah.
cup holder. Like
Yeah.
it's not difficult.
No. I don't know, man. Different strokes. Maybe that's their thing.
Like a 2-stroke engine. I'm gonna use to fire up my fucking chainsaw and chop them up. I don't know. All right, folks. I've gotten dark enough for this podcast. Y'all go and have a good one.
Oh man. All right.